The rain tasted like iron. She didn't know if it was the rain itself or the blood in her mouth, but as she lay crumpled against the wet stone, the difference stopped mattering. Her ribs screamed with each shallow breath. Her vision blurred at the edges, and the cold had stopped feeling like cold, it just felt like nothing. Above her, the clan house glowed warm through the downpour. Yellow light spilled from the windows where her former family, sat around the fire, probably laughing, probably relieved. She had always been the wrong one, too soft, too human, her mother's shame, her father's disappointment. When the elders gathered 3 nights ago and declared her bloodline tainted, no one had defended her. Not even her sister, who used to braid her hair and whisper promises they'd always stay together. They had stripped her of her name, her mark, her place. Then they had beaten her to make sure she understood. She was nothing now. The heavy wooden door had slammed behind her, and she'd stumbled into the forest with only the clothes on her back and a body that barely worked. That was 2 days ago now. She lay in the mud behind a collapsed chapel on the border of the Shadowlands, too tired to run, too broken to care. Her fingers curled into the dirt. She wondered if dying here, alone and unnamed, was the kindest thing the world could give her. Then she felt it. A presence, not a sound, not movement. Just the sudden weight of being watched. Her breath hitched. She forced her head to turn, mud clinging to her cheek, and she saw him. He stood 10 feet away, perfectly still beneath the rain, his dark coat untouched by wind or water. His eyes pale as winter frost, sharp as a blade's edge, fixed on her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. Beautiful didn't cover it. He was the kind of face that belonged in old paintings, carved in marble, whispered about in myths. High cheekbones, sharp jaw, black hair that fell just past his collar. But it wasn't his beauty that froze her. It was the stillness, the inhuman, predatory stillness, and the way he was looking at her, not with pity, not with disgust, with hunger. "Dying," he said. His voice was low, smooth, almost gentle. It slid over her skin like silk. She tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. She managed a nod. He tilted his head, studying her the way one might study a rare artifact. Then he stepped closer, boots silent on the wet ground, and crouched in front of her. The scent of him hit her, rain and smoke and something ancient she couldn't name. "They cast you out," he murmured. Not a question, her chest tightened. She nodded again. "And you came here to die." She didn't nod this time. She didn't need to. He could see it. His gaze traced her face, her torn clothes, the bruises mottling her skin. Then his eyes locked on hers, and something shifted in them. Something dark and possessive and utterly terrifying. "No," he said softly. Before she could process the word, he reached out and cupped her jaw. His hand was cold but not unpleasant. His thumb brushed her bottom lip, smearing blood, and she saw his pupils dilate. "You won't die here," he whispered. "Not now, not ever." "Why?" The word cracked in her throat. "Because," he said, leaning closer until his breath ghosted over her mouth, "you're mine." Then he bit her. Pain exploded through her neck, white-hot and all-consuming. She tried to scream, but his hand slid to the back of her head, holding her still, and the scream died in her chest. The world tilted. Her vision went black at the edges, but then the pain shifted. It became heat, then pressure, then something else entirely, something that felt like being pulled apart and stitched back together all at once. Like drowning and surfacing at the same time. Like every nerve in her body waking up after years of sleep. She gasped. He pulled back slowly, his lips stained red, his eyes molten silver now. He licked the blood from his mouth, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "What?" she breathed. "You'll understand soon," he said. Then he lifted her into his arms as if she weighed nothing. She wanted to fight, to demand answers. But her body had gone limp, boneless, and exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The last thing she saw before unconsciousness took her was his face, sharp and beautiful and utterly unreadable. As he carried her into the dark, she woke in silk. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim golden light. She was lying in a bed. No, not a bed. A massive 4-poster draped in deep burgundy curtains, the mattress so soft she felt like she might sink through it. The air smelled like cedar and old books. Her body didn't hurt anymore. She sat up fast, her hands flying to her ribs, her face, her neck. But there was no pain, no bruises, just smooth, unblemished skin. "What?" "You healed." She spun toward the voice. He was sitting in a chair by the window, one leg crossed over the other, a book resting in his lap. He looked every bit the lord he clearly was, elegant, composed, untouchable. But his eyes were on her, and they hadn't lost that predatory edge. "Where am I?" she demanded, though her voice came out weaker than she wanted. "My estate." "Why? I told you, you're mine." Her stomach twisted. "I don't even know you." "You will." He closed the book and set it aside, rising to his feet. He moved like liquid shadow, crossing the room until he stood at the foot of the bed. Your name, she hesitated. I don't have one, they took it. His jaw tightened just barely. Then I'll give you one. You can't just, I can. He leaned forward, hands bracing on the bed, and suddenly he was close again, too close. His scent wrapped around her. You were cast out, beaten, left to rot. Your clan decided you were worthless, but they were wrong. You don't know that. Do. His voice dropped, rough and certain. Because I can feel you, her breath caught. What? He reached out, fingertips brushing her collarbone, and she felt it, a pulse, a connection, something warm and electric that made her skin hum. Bond, he said quietly. It's already begun. Bond, the mate bond. The words hit her like a slap. She jerked back. That's not possible. I'm nothing. I'm human. You're a vampire, the vampire lord of this region, to be exact. His lips curved, but there was no humor in it. And you, little one, are mine, my fated mate. She stared at him, heart pounding. No, yes, I don't believe in fate. You will. Her hands curled into the sheets. Why me? His expression softened just for a moment, just enough to make her chest ache. Because the bond doesn't lie. Because every instinct I have is screaming at me to keep you, protect you, claim you. Because when I found you dying in the rain, I felt something I haven't felt in 2 centuries. What? Fear. The word hung in the air between them. She swallowed hard. You can't just decide I'm yours. I didn't decide. He straightened, hands sliding into his pockets. Fate did, the bond did, and whether you accept it or not, it's already done. You're tied to me now. You'll feel it soon if you don't already. She wanted to argue, to deny it, but deep down in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, she did feel it. A pull, a warmth, a thread connecting her to this dangerous, beautiful stranger. Want to leave, she whispered. No, you don't. You have nowhere to go. His voice was gentle, but it cut like glass. No family, no name, no home. Out there, you're nothing. In here, you're everything. Tears burned her eyes. She hated how right he was. He moved closer again, sitting on the edge of the bed. His hand reached out, fingertips brushing her cheek, and she flinched, but didn't pull away. No, you're afraid, he murmured. I know this is overwhelming, but I swear to you I will never hurt you. I will never cast you out. You are mine, and I protect what's mine. Don't even know your name, she said, voice breaking. He smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. Kale, Kale, she repeated. And you, he said, thumb tracing her jaw, are Astrid. Name settled over her like a cloak. Warm, right. She didn't know if she believed in fate, didn't know if she could trust him, but when he leaned in and pressed his forehead to hers, whispering, You're safe now, she let herself believe it just for a moment. The days bled together in Kale's estate. Astrid learned quickly that he wasn't just a vampire lord, he was the vampire lord, the most powerful in the region, feared by humans and vampires alike. His word was law, his presence a threat, but with her he was different. He brought her meals himself, sat with her in the library while she read, taught her the layout of the estate, the names of his staff, the rules of his world. He never touched her without permission, never pushed, but she felt the bond growing stronger every day. It started as warmth in her chest. Then it became a pull, a need to be near him. She found herself seeking him out without thinking, standing closer, letting his hand linger when he helped her with something. And the dreams, God, the dreams. She woke every night tangled in sheets, breathless, aching. She dreamed of his hands, his mouth, his body pressing hers into silk. She dreamed of him claiming her in every way possible, and the worst part was she wanted it. She was falling, and she didn't know how to stop. 3 weeks after he'd saved her, she found him in his study. He was standing by the window, staring out at the dark forest, a glass of something red in his hand. He didn't turn when she entered, but she knew he'd heard her. Can't sleep? He asked. No, the bond. Her silence was answer enough. He turned then, eyes meeting hers, and the heat in them nearly buckled her knees. It's getting harder, isn't it? He said softly. Fighting it. Not fighting anything. She crossed her arms. What do you want me to say? I want you to admit that you feel it. That you want this. Set the glass down and moved toward her, slow and deliberate. Me, her heart hammered. Kale, say it. You want me, Astrid. She couldn't, because saying it made it real, made her vulnerable, made her breakable. He stopped in front of her, so close she could feel the cold radiating off his skin. His hand lifted, fingers tracing the curve of her throat, and she shivered. Terrified, he whispered. Not of me, of this, of how much you want it. Stop, she breathed. I don't know how to want someone without losing myself. His eyes softened. You won't lose yourself, I won't let you. You can't promise that. Can. His hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer. Because I don't want a broken, empty version of you. I want you, fire and fear and strength and all. Her breath hitched. Kale, me have you, he murmured, mouth hovering over hers. Let me make you mine in every way. She should have said no, should have pulled away, but she didn't. Instead, she closed the distance and kissed him. Comment below. Would you accept a bond with someone who saved you but terrified you? Let's talk about it. The kiss was fire. His mouth claimed hers with a hunger that stole her breath, his hands sliding into her hair, angling her head exactly how he wanted. She gasped against him, and he took the opportunity to deepen the kiss, tongue sweeping in, tasting her, devouring her. She clung to him, fingers twisting in his shirt, and when he lifted her, she wrapped her legs around his waist without thinking. He carried her to the desk, sweeping everything off with one hand before setting her down. His mouth never left hers. His hands roamed her waist, her thighs, her throat, possessive and claiming and perfect. "Kale," she gasped when he pulled back. His eyes were molten silver, pupils blown wide. "Say yes!" Yes to the bond, to me, to us. Her heart pounded. She knew what he was asking, knew that saying yes meant surrendering to something bigger than both of them. But looking at him, this powerful, dangerous man who looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered, she couldn't say no. "Yes," she whispered. His smile was devastating, then he bit her again. But this time it wasn't to save her, it was to claim her. The bond snapped into place like a lock turning. Astrid felt it in her soul, a golden thread wrapping around her, tying her to Kale in a way that was permanent, unbreakable. She felt his emotions bleeding into hers, desire, possessiveness, relief, devotion. When he pulled back, his eyes were glowing. "Mine," he whispered against her mouth. "Yours," she breathed, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged. But happiness, Astrid would learn, was always temporary, especially when the clan found out what she'd become. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what happens next, because this story is about to get darker. The first sign of trouble came 5 days after the bond solidified. Astrid woke to Kale already dressed, standing by the window with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. She could feel his tension through the bond, sharp and cold. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting up. "Your clan knows." Her blood went cold. "How?" Word travels fast in this world. A human bonded to a vampire lord. That's not something people ignore. He turned to face her, expression grim. "They're coming." "Them," she said, surprising herself. "I don't belong to them anymore." "You don't." He crossed the room and sat beside her, taking her hand. "But they won't see it that way. To them, you're a traitor, a stain on their name, and they'll want you dead." Fear curled in her stomach. "Can they break the bond?" "No, but they can try to kill you." "Then we fight." His eyes softened. "You're not a fighter, Astrid." "I am now." She met his gaze, steady. "Because I have something worth fighting for." He kissed her then, hard and fierce, but the kiss tasted like goodbye. They came at dusk. Astrid stood beside Kale on the front steps of his estate, watching the clan elders approach. Her sister was with them, her mother, her father, all wearing expressions of cold fury. "You dare bring her here?" The head elder spat, glaring at Kale. "She's my mate," Kale said calmly. "And she's under my protection." "She's an abomination." "She's mine." His voice dropped, lethal. "And if you touch her, I will burn your entire clan to ash." Her father stepped forward. "You've made a mistake, vampire. She's tainted, weak. She'll only bring you ruin." Astrid's chest tightened, but Kale laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "She's stronger than all of you combined, and smarter, too, because she knew when to walk away from people who never deserved her." "Her to us," her mother said, "and we'll leave peacefully." "Then we'll take her." Kale's eyes flashed. "Try." Chaos erupted. Magic and steel clashed. Kale moved like death, cutting through clan warriors with brutal efficiency. Astrid watched, frozen, as the people she'd once called family tried to kill the man she loved. Then she saw her sister running toward her, knife raised. Instinct took over. Astrid grabbed a fallen blade and met her sister's strike, the clang of metal ringing out. Her sister's eyes widened. "You really chose him over us," she hissed. "He chose me," Astrid said. "You never did." She disarmed her sister with a move Kale had taught her and shoved her back. When the dust settled, the clan was retreating, but the damage was done. That night, Astrid sat by the fire, hands trembling. Kale knelt in front of her, cupping her face. "You did well." "I almost killed her." "Tried to kill you first." "She's my sister." "Was your sister." His thumb brushed her cheek. "They made their choice, Astrid. Now you've made yours." Tears slipped down her face. "Why does choosing you feel like losing everything?" "Because it is." His voice was gentle. "But you're gaining something too. A life where you're loved, wanted, valued." She leaned into his touch. "Promise me it'll be worth it." "I promise." But some promises, she'd learn, were made to be broken. The war between the clan and Kale's territory escalated over the next 2 months. They attacked his borders, burned his outposts, killed his people. And every time they demanded the same thing, Astrid. She watched Cale grow colder, harder. The man who'd been gentle with her became ruthless with everyone else. He stopped sleeping, stopped smiling. The bond ached with his pain. One night she found him in his study, covered in blood. "Cale, I need you to leave," he said without looking at her. "What? This war won't end unless you're gone, so I need you to leave." Her heart shattered. "You're breaking the bond." "No." He finally looked at her and his eyes were hollow. "I'm protecting you. If you stay, they'll kill you." "And I can't lose you." "You're sending me away?" "Yes." "Where?" "Somewhere they'll never find you." "You," her voice cracked. "What happens to you?" "I survive, like I always do." She crossed the room and grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "I'm not leaving you." "Astrid, no, you don't get to decide this alone. We're bonded. That means we face this together." "They'll kill you." "Then let them try." She kissed him, fierce and desperate. "But I'm not running, not anymore." Broke then, pulling her into his arms and holding her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "You won't." But fate, as always, had other plans. Like this video if you believe love is worth fighting for, because Astrid and Cale's battle is just beginning. The betrayal came from within. One of Cale's trusted advisors had been feeding information to the clan for weeks. And one night, while Cale was away handling a skirmish, they struck. Astrid woke to smoke and screams. The estate was burning. She ran through the halls, coughing, disoriented, until hands grabbed her from behind. She fought, but there were too many. They dragged her outside where her father waited. "This ends tonight," he said coldly. "Cale will kill you," she spat. "Cale is halfway across the territory. By the time he returns, you'll be dead." They bound her wrists and forced her to her knees. Her mother stepped forward, holding a silver blade. "It didn't have to be this way," her mother said quietly. "Yes, it did," Astrid replied. "Because you never loved me. You only loved what I could be for you." Her mother's expression didn't change. She raised the blade. Then the world exploded. Cale appeared like a storm, moving so fast he was a blur. Bodies dropped. Blood sprayed. He was a creature of pure rage, unstoppable and terrifying. He reached Astrid in seconds, snapping her bindings and pulling her into his arms. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, but good." Then he turned to her clan, eyes glowing like twin moons. "You wanted war," he said, voice echoing with power. "You have it." What followed was carnage. Cale didn't just kill them, he destroyed them. Her father, the elders, the warriors who'd stood by while she was cast out. Her mother tried to run. Cale caught her. "Please," her mother begged. "She's still my daughter." "No," Cale said coldly. "She's mine, and you lost her the moment you chose your pride over her." He killed her quickly. When it was over, Astrid stood in a field of corpses, numb. Cale turned to her, covered in blood, and for a moment she didn't recognize him. Then the bond pulsed, and she felt it. His grief, his guilt, his love. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She walked to him and took his blood-stained hand. "Don't be," she said. "They made their choice." Do you regret yours?" She looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd given her everything. "Never." The state was rebuilt, the war ended. But Astrid and Cale were never the same. They loved harder, held tighter. Because they knew how fragile happiness was. And on quiet nights, when she lay in his arms, Astrid thought about the girl she'd been, broken, nameless, unwanted. And she was grateful that girl had died in the rain. Because the woman she'd become, she was someone worth being. 6 months later, on a cold winter night, Astrid stood in Cale's study and told him she was pregnant. He stared at her, silent. Then he dropped to his knees and pressed his face to her stomach, and she felt wetness against her skin. He was crying. "I thought I'd lost everything," he whispered. "But you gave me a reason to live." She ran her fingers through his hair. "We gave each other that." But peace, Astrid learned, always came with a price. Because 3 weeks later, a messenger arrived with news that would change everything. The Vampire Council had heard about the bond, and they were coming to break it. Comment now. Do you think Cale and Astrid's bond can survive the Vampire Council? Drop your theories below. Subscribe so you don't miss part 2, because this story is far from over. The summons arrived on black parchment, sealed with red wax. Cale read it in silence, his jaw tightening with every word. When he finished, he crumpled it in his fist. "What is it?" Astrid asked, though she already knew it was bad. "Council wants to see us, both of us." "Why?" "Because we broke their oldest law." He looked at her, eyes dark. "Vampires don't bond with humans, ever." "We did." "I know." His hand found hers. "And they're going to try to undo it." Fear flooded her. "Can they?" "I don't know, but I won't let them take you." "Cale, I won't." His voice was steel. "I don't care what laws I break. I don't care if I have to burn the entire council. You're mine, and I'll die before I let them change that." She believed him. But she also knew that sometimes love wasn't enough. The journey to the council's stronghold took 3 days. They traveled in silence, the bond between them tight and anxious. Astrid felt Cale's fear bleeding into her, a fear he'd never admit aloud. When they arrived, the stronghold rose before them like a monument to death. Black stone towers piercing the sky, torches burning with green flame, and at the gates, guards who looked at Astrid like she was an insect. "Stay close," Cale murmured. They entered together. The council chambers were vast and cold, the walls lined with ancient vampires who watched them with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. At the center sat the High Council, 5 vampires so old their power radiated like heat. The one in the middle spoke first. "Cale, you've been summoned to answer for your crime." "What crime?" Cale's voice was calm, but Astrid felt his rage through the bond. "Bonding with a human. She's my mate." "Impossible. Humans are not compatible with vampire bonds. What you've done is perverse, unnatural." "It's fate," Cale shot back. "It's an abomination." The counselor's eyes shifted to Astrid. "And it must be corrected." Astrid's stomach dropped. "Corrected? The bond will be severed. You will be returned to your kind," Cale said flatly. "This is not a negotiation." "Then it's a fight." Room went silent. The head counselor leaned forward. "You would go to war with the council over a human." "I would burn the world for her," Cale said. "So yes." Astrid's heart hammered. She stepped forward. "Please, we're not hurting anyone. We just want to be together." "Your wants are irrelevant," the counselor said coldly. "The law exists for a reason. Vampire bonds are sacred. Binding oneself to a mortal is a defilement." "Then maybe your laws are wrong," Astrid said, surprising herself. The room erupted in murmurs. "Silence her," one of the counselors snapped, but Cale moved in front of her, a wall of protection. "Touch her and you die." Tension was suffocating. Finally, the head counselor spoke again. "There is one alternative." Cale's eyes narrowed. "What?" "She can become one of us." Astrid's breath caught. "No," Cale said immediately. "It's the only way the bond can remain intact without violating our laws. If she transitions, she becomes vampire. The bond becomes legitimate." "She's pregnant," Cale said through gritted teeth. "The transition could kill her, could kill the child." "Then that is the risk you must take." Astrid felt the room spinning. She looked at Cale, whose face was a mask of fury and helplessness. "Long do we have?" she asked quietly. 1 week, the counselor said. "Decide, transition, or we sever the bond and send you back." "If we refuse, then Cale will be executed for treason and you will be made an example of." They left in silence. When they returned to the estate, Cale went straight to his study and broke everything in sight. Astrid watched from the doorway, feeling his rage and despair through the bond. When he finally stopped, he sank into a chair, head in his hands. "There has to be another way," he said hoarsely. "What if there isn't?" "Then I'll find one." He looked up at her, eyes burning. "I won't lose you, Astrid." "I won't. What if the only way to keep me is to let me go?" "Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't say that." She crossed the room and knelt in front of him, taking his hands. "If I transition, there's a chance I'll die, a chance the baby will die, but if I don't, we lose each other anyway. We're damned either way." "Maybe," she cupped his face. "But I'd rather die trying to stay with you than live without you." Tears slipped down his cheeks. "I can't do this without you." "You won't have to." She kissed him softly. "Because I'm choosing you, again." Transition was scheduled for 3 days later. Astrid spent the time preparing, writing letters, making peace with her choices, holding Cale like he might disappear. On the night before, they lay tangled together in bed, the bond thrumming between them. "Are you scared?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "But I'm also sure." "What?" "That loving you was the best thing I ever did." He kissed her forehead. "If you survive this, I'm never letting you go." "Promise." "Promise." Transition was agony. They performed it in the council chambers, surrounded by vampires who watched with clinical detachment. Cale held her hand the entire time, whispering reassurances even as she screamed. She felt her body breaking, reforming, dying and being reborn, and then silence. She opened her eyes. Everything was sharper, brighter. The world was alive in a way it had never been before, and Cale was staring at her, eyes wide. "Astrid," she smiled. "I'm here." He pulled her into his arms and held her so tightly she couldn't breathe, but she didn't care. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it." And then she felt it, a flutter in her stomach. The baby, still alive, she gasped. Cale felt it through the bond. His eyes went wide. "The baby is fine." She laughed, giddy and disbelieving. "We're fine." He kissed her, fierce and desperate and joyful. They'd won, but victory, Astrid would learn, always came with scars. Because 3 months later, when their daughter was born, the council returned with a new demand. They wanted the child. "She's half human," the counselor said. "A hybrid." She cannot be allowed to exist. Astrid held her daughter closer, fangs bared. You'll have to kill me first. That can be arranged. Kale stepped forward, power radiating off him in waves. You touch my family and I'll destroy every last one of you. You're outnumbered, Kale. I don't care. Standoff lasted hours, but in the end it was the baby who saved them. She opened her eyes that glowed silver like Kale's, and the room fell silent. She's powerful, one of the counselors whispered. More powerful than any vampire born in centuries, another added, awe creeping into their voice. The head counselor leaned forward, studying the infant with calculating eyes. Perhaps she is not an abomination after all. Don't, Kale warned, his voice lethal. Don't even think about taking her. Have no intention of taking her, but we will be watching if she becomes a threat. She won't, Astrid interrupted, her voice steady despite her fear. Because we'll raise her to be better than all of you. Counselor's lips thinned. Very well, but know this, the moment she steps out of line, the moment she proves to be the monster we suspect, we will end her. And you. Out, Kale said flatly. They left. When the doors closed, Astrid finally allowed herself to breathe. She looked down at her daughter, Sira, they'd named her, and felt tears streaming down her face. Never stop coming for her, will they? She whispered. No, Kale said honestly. He wrapped his arms around both of them. But they'll have to go through me first, through us. Astrid leaned into him, exhausted. Is this what the rest of our lives will be? Fighting, hiding? Maybe. He kissed her temple. But we'll do it together. She wanted to believe that would be enough. The years that followed were a strange blend of peace and paranoia. Sira grew quickly, too quickly. By age 5, she had the awareness of a teenager. By 10, she could read minds. By 15, she could manipulate shadows like her father and move objects with her thoughts like no vampire before her. She was extraordinary. She was also utterly alone. Why can't I leave the estate? Sira demanded one night, her silver eyes flashing with frustration. Why can't I have friends, a life? Because the world isn't safe for you, Astrid said gently. Or you're not safe for the world. Sira shot back. The words hit like a slap. Kale entered the room, his presence immediately commanding. Watch your tone, Sira. It's the truth, isn't it? You're so afraid of what I might become that you've locked me away like a prisoner. Protecting you, Kale said, but there was weariness in his voice. From what, the council, other vampires, or from myself? Sira's voice cracked. I'm not a child anymore, and I'm tired of being treated like a weapon that might go off. You don't understand what they'll do to you if they catch you, Astrid said. Then teach me to fight back. Sira's power flared, the shadows in the room writhing. Stop protecting me and start trusting me. Silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Kale spoke. You're right. Both Astrid and Sira stared at him. She's right, he repeated, looking at Astrid. We can't keep her locked away forever. Eventually, she'll have to face the world. And when she does, we need her to be ready, not resentful. Astrid's stomach churned. Kale, I know you're scared. So am I, but she's strong. Stronger than both of us, maybe. He turned to Sira. Starting tomorrow, I'll train you. Everything I know about combat, politics, survival, but you have to promise me something. What? That you'll be smart. That you won't rush into danger just to prove something. That you'll remember, the world won't give you second chances. Sira's expression softened. I promise. Astrid wanted to protest, wanted to keep her daughter safe behind stone walls forever. But looking at Sira, fierce and brilliant and desperate for freedom, she recognized herself at that age, and she knew Kale was right. Sira's training began the next morning. Kale was ruthless but fair, pushing her to her limits and then beyond. He taught her to fight with blades, with magic, with her mind. He taught her to read people, to manipulate conversations, to hide her true strength. Astrid taught her the other lessons, the ones about mercy, compassion, and the weight of power. Your father will teach you how to survive, Astrid said one afternoon as they walked through the garden. But I need you to learn how to live. What's the difference? Surviving means doing whatever it takes to stay alive. Living means remembering why you wanted to stay alive in the first place. She touched Sira's cheek. Don't let this world make you cruel, Sira. Don't let them win by turning you into what they fear. Sira was quiet for a long moment. Do you regret it, bonding with him? Having me? Never, Astrid said fiercely. You are the best thing I've ever created, and I would go through every painful moment again just to hold you. Sira's eyes glistened. I'm sorry I said those things before. You were frustrated, and you weren't wrong. We have been overprotective. Astrid smiled sadly. But you're our miracle, Sira. Can you blame us for wanting to keep you safe? No, Sira admitted. But I can ask you to let me grow. Then grow, Astrid said. Just. Don't grow away from us. I won't. It was a promise neither of them knew she could keep. Comment. What do you think Sira's future holds? Will she follow her parents' path or forge her own? Everything changed the night Sira turned 18. There was no celebration, no party. Just the three of them in the estate, aware that 18 meant something different in their world. It meant Sira was no longer under the council's probationary period. It meant she could be judged as an adult. It meant the council could legally kill her if they deemed her a threat. "Come soon," Cale said, staring into the fire. "They'll want to assess her." "Them," Sira said from the doorway. They both turned. She stood there in fighting leathers, her long dark hair braided back, her silver eyes calm. "I'm ready." "Sierra," Astrid started. "Been ready for years, Mother. You know it. Father knows it." She walked to them, chin high. "I'm not afraid of them." "Maybe you should be," Cale said quietly. "Maybe they should be afraid of me." The words hung in the air, both promise and threat. The council arrived a week later, their carriages rolling through the gates like a funeral procession. This time they brought an army. Astrid stood beside Cale on the front steps, Sierra between them, and felt the weight of every eye on her daughter. The head counselor descended from his carriage, older than before but no less imposing. "Sierra, we've been waiting to meet you." "Have you?" Sierra's voice was cool. "How disappointing for you that I'm not the monster you hoped I'd be." Few vampires in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. "That remains to be seen," the counselor said. "We're here to conduct the assessment. You will demonstrate your abilities, you will submit to questioning, and then we will determine whether you are suitable to exist." "If you decide I'm not," Sierra asked calmly, "then you will be eliminated, swiftly and without ceremony." Cale's hand found Astrid's, squeezing tight. She could feel his barely restrained rage through the bond. "Then let's begin," Sierra said. "I'd hate to waste your time." Assessment took place in the courtyard. Surrounded by dozens of vampires, they tested her combat skills first. 5 of their best warriors against her. She disabled them all within minutes, moving like liquid shadow, her power controlled and devastating. They tested her mental fortitude next. Mind readers tried to breach her thoughts. She built walls they couldn't penetrate, then turned the tables and exposed their own secrets, leaving them gasping. They tested her magic. She summoned shadows that danced like living things, manipulated elements, and finally, in a display that left everyone silent, she froze time itself for a full 30 seconds. When she released it, the courtyard erupted in whispers. The head counselor's expression was unreadable. "Impressive and terrifying." "My father's daughter," Sierra said simply. "Indeed." "Which brings us to the final test." He gestured, and 2 guards dragged forward a human, a young man bound and terrified. "This human was caught trying to steal from a vampire household. The punishment is death. You will execute him." Sierra went very still. "No," Astrid said immediately, stepping forward. "This isn't part of the assessment." "It's the most important part," the counselor countered. "We need to know if she can make the hard choices, if she can kill when necessary." "He's innocent," Sierra said, her voice tight. "He's a thief. He's human, like my mother was." Sierra looked at the boy, then back at the counselor. "I won't kill him for your entertainment." "Then you fail the assessment." "Sierra," Cale said quietly, his voice laced with warning. "Think about what you're doing." She turned to her father. "I have, and I won't become what they want me to be." Counselor smiled coldly. "Then you are not vampire enough for our world." "Good," Sierra said. "Because your world is built on cruelty and fear, and I want no part of it." She turned to walk away. "Seize her," the counselor commanded. Guards rushed forward, and Sierra exploded. Power erupted from her in a wave that sent vampires flying. Shadows consumed the courtyard. The ground cracked beneath her feet. Her eyes glowed like twin suns, and when she spoke, her voice echoed with something ancient and terrible. "I'm not yours to judge. I am not yours to control. I am the daughter of Cale and Astrid. I am hybrid, and I will never bow to you." Counselor actually took a step back. Cale moved to Sierra's side, his own power rising to match hers. "She's right. This ends now. No more assessments. No more tests. My daughter is free." "You're declaring war," the counselor said. "I'm declaring independence," Cale corrected. "This territory is mine. My family is mine. And if you ever threaten them again, I will show you exactly what it means to cross a vampire lord who has nothing left to lose." Standoff lasted an eternity. Finally, the counselor inclined his head. "Very well, but know this, you are now exiled from the council. Your protection is revoked. Your standing nullified. You stand alone." "Always stood alone," Cale said. "This changes nothing." Council left. When they were gone, Sierra collapsed. Astrid caught her, cradling her daughter as exhaustion took over. "I'm sorry," Sierra whispered. "I ruined everything," Astrid said fiercely. "You saved everything. You stayed true to yourself. Now we're enemies of the council." Cale knelt beside them, his hand on Sierra's head. Let them come, let the whole world come, we'll face it together. Like if you think Sierra made the right choice, or comment if you think she doomed her family. The months after the assessment were tense but strangely peaceful. The council kept their distance. Other vampire lords, sensing Cale's vulnerability, tested his borders, but Sierra proved to be a powerful deterrent. One look at what she could do and most backed off quickly, but not all. There was one vampire lord who saw opportunity in Cale's exile. His name was Dorian, and he had wanted Cale's territory for decades. He's gathering allies, Cale said one evening, reviewing reports in his study. At least 6 other lords have pledged support. What? Astrid asked. To take everything I've built, my lands, my people, my family. Sierra, leaning against the wall, straightened. When do they attack? Soon, days, maybe. Then we prepare. Sierra, this isn't like the assessment, Astrid said. This is war, real war. I know, Sierra's expression was grim. But what choice do we have? We could leave, Astrid suggested quietly. Go somewhere they can't find us. Run forever, Cale shook his head. I won't give them the satisfaction. This is our home, and I'll die before I let them take it. Then we all will, Sierra said simply. Astrid wanted to argue, wanted to scream that there had to be another way. But looking at her husband and daughter, both stubborn and fierce and unwilling to bend, she knew this was how their story would end, in blood and fire and loyalty. The attack came 3 nights later. Dorian brought an army of nearly 200 vampires, surrounding the estate in a closing circle. They set fires, broke down barriers, killed anyone who stood in their way. Cale, Astrid, and Sierra fought side by side. Cale was a whirlwind of death, centuries of experience making him nearly untouchable. Astrid moved with lethal grace, her vampire strength combined with the humanity she'd never quite lost, making her unpredictable. And Sierra was a storm. She tore through enemies with power that shouldn't exist, her hybrid nature making her stronger than any of them. But they were outnumbered. And eventually, even legends fall. Astrid felt it the moment Cale was hit. The bond screamed. She turned and saw him on his knees, a blade through his chest, Dorian standing over him with a victorious smile. No, she screamed, running to him, but Dorian caught her by the throat, lifting her off her feet. Did you really think you could win, a human playing vampire? She clawed at his hand, gasping. Then Sierra appeared behind him. Let her go, she said, her voice cold and empty. Dorian laughed. Or what little hybrid? Sierra didn't answer. She simply moved. One moment Dorian was holding Astrid. The next he was in pieces. Sierra had moved so fast, so violently, that he'd been dismembered before he could even scream. The battlefield went silent. Every vampire stared at Sierra, who stood covered in blood, her eyes glowing with inhuman rage. Anyone else? She asked softly. They ran. Astrid crawled to Cale, pulling the blade from his chest with shaking hands. No, stay with me. He coughed blood. Astrid, don't you dare, she sobbed. Don't you dare leave me. I'm not. He reached up, cupping her face. I'm not going anywhere. Bond pulsed weakly. Sierra dropped beside them, her hands glowing with power. Move, mother. Me. Astrid moved. Sierra placed her hands over Cale's wound, and light poured from her palms, warm and golden and impossible. The wound began to close. Cale breathed. I don't know, Sierra admitted. But I won't let you die, not after everything. When she pulled back, Cale's wound was healed. He sat up slowly, staring at his daughter in awe. What are you? Sierra smiled sadly. Something new. War ended that night. Word spread quickly about Sierra's power, about what she'd done to Dorian, about how she'd healed her father. No one dared challenge them again, but victory felt hollow, because Astrid knew they'd won the battle, but the cost had been too high. A year later, Sierra left. Have to, she told them, standing in the doorway with a packed bag. The world needs to know that hybrids aren't monsters, that we can be something better. They'll kill you, Astrid said, tears streaming down her face. Maybe, Sierra admitted, but I have to try. Cale pulled her into a fierce hug. Then be smart, be strong, and come home. I will, she hugged Astrid last, holding her mother tight. Thank you for everything, for choosing father, for having me, for teaching me to be better. Love you, Astrid whispered. Love you too. Then Sierra walked out the door, and Astrid felt like her heart was being ripped from her chest. Cale wrapped his arms around her, and they stood there, watching their daughter disappear into the night. She'll be okay, he murmured. Do you know? Because she's ours. The years passed. Astrid and Cale rebuilt. They fortified their territory. They made alliances. They lived. But there was always a Sierra-shaped hole in their lives, until one night, 20 years later, when a knock came at the door. Astrid opened it to find her daughter standing there, older, scarred, but smiling, and beside her stood a young man with kind eyes and a nervous expression. Mother, Sierra said. Father, I'd like you to meet someone. Young man stepped forward. Hello, I'm Marcus, and I'm Sierra's mate. Astrid stared, then she started laughing, the kind of laughter that borders on tears. Of course you are, she said, pulling them both inside. Of course you are. That night, as they sat around the fire, Sierra told them everything about her travels, her battles, the hybrids she'd found and protected, the community she'd built, and about Marcus, a human who'd seen her at her worst and loved her anyway. I understand now, Sierra said quietly, looking at her parents. What you went through, what you sacrificed, and why it was worth it. Cale raised his glass. To love that defies every rule. To family that survives every war, Astrid added. To new beginnings, Sierra finished. They drank. And for the first time in decades, Astrid felt complete, but fate, as always, wasn't done with them yet, because 3 months later, Sierra came to them with news she was pregnant. Come for the child, Cale said immediately. The council, the other lords, everyone will see it as a threat. Them, Sierra said, her hand protective over her stomach. I'm not afraid anymore. Neither are we, Astrid said firmly. She looked at Cale. We've fought for our family before. We'll do it again. This time, Sierra added, her eyes gleaming, we have an army of hybrids who will fight with us. Cale's lips curved into a rare smile. Then let them come. Let the whole damn world come. We'll be ready, Astrid finished. And this time she knew they would be. The council did come, 6 months after Sierra's son was born, a beautiful boy with his mother's silver eyes and his father's warm smile. The council arrived with demands. They wanted to study the child, to monitor him, to control him. But when they entered the estate, they found something they hadn't expected. Dozens of hybrids standing guard. Vampire lords who'd pledged loyalty to Cale. And at the center, 3 generations of a family that refused to break. The head counselor, impossibly old now, barely clinging to power, stared at them. This is unprecedented, he said. Good, Cale replied. We've never been ones for tradition. If you protect this child, you will be hunted forever. We've been hunted before, Sierra said. We're still here. Counselor looked at them for a long time, then slowly he inclined his head. Perhaps. The world is changing. Perhaps your family is proof that change isn't always destruction. This mean, Astrid started. It means we will watch, we will wait, but we will not interfere. He turned to leave, then paused. For now. When they were gone, the family stood together, the baby cooing softly in Sierra's arms. Do you think they'll keep their word? Marcus asked. No, Cale said honestly. But we'll keep ours. We'll protect this family, no matter what. Astrid looked at her husband, her daughter, her grandson, and she thought about the girl she'd been broken, bleeding, dying in the rain. She thought about the choice she'd made to trust a dangerous stranger. She thought about every battle, every loss, every moment of pain. And she knew she'd do it all again, because love wasn't safe, it wasn't easy, it wasn't fair, but it was worth it, every single time. Years later, when Astrid was old enough to have lived 3 human lifetimes, she sat in the garden with Cale beside her. Do you have regrets? He asked. She thought about it, really thought. No, she said finally, not a single one. Even the pain, especially not the pain. She took his hand. Because the pain meant we were alive, it meant we were fighting for something that mattered. Now we rest. She leaned her head on his shoulder. We've earned it. He kissed her temple. I love you, Astrid, my mate. My heart, my everything. I love you too. They sat there as the sun set, 2 immortals who'd found something more precious than forever. They'd found each other. And in the house behind them, their family laughed and lived and loved. Sierra told stories to her grandchildren. Marcus made dinner. Hybrid children played in the halls. The estate that had once been a fortress of solitude had become a home filled with life. And every night, when Astrid closed her eyes, she thanked whatever force had led her to that rainy night. The night she died, and the night she was reborn. Drop a comment telling us what moment hit you hardest. Was it the beginning, the betrayal, the reunion? We want to hear from you. Subscribe for more dark romance stories that will break your heart and put it back together. Like if you believe love is worth every sacrifice. Thank you for staying until the end. This story, like all great loves, was meant to be felt, not just heard. See you in the next story.